You'd probably miss the turnoff if you weren't looking for it. The road curves wide around a slow hill, then disappears behind trees that don't care about being seen. There's no sign, just a narrow lane that dips like it's trying to tuck itself under the world if you keep going slowly. Like the tires know not to rush, you'll find it. The town doesn't have a name on any map. Maybe it did once, maybe not, doesn't matter. Folks who end up there just call it here, and in this place, there are no clocks. Not broken ones, not old ones, just none at all. Not in kitchens, not on wrists, not on church towers or shop walls. Even the sun seems to hang a little longer than it should, like it's forgotten what comes next. There's a woman named Elsie who runs the only bakery on the corner. No hours posted, just opens when the smell of cinnamon and butter starts floating out the windows. The bell above her door doesn't ring, it clinks soft, like a spoon tapping a mug. Elsie doesn't ask what time you came in. She just looks at your face, slides a warm roll into a paper bag, and says, "You need this one." Then she nods once. Nothing more. You pay what you want. Coins or bills or buttons or a drawing. She keeps everything in the same tin. Next door, there's a bookshop that never seems to close. Lights stay on, faint and golden, like someone forgot to turn them off years ago. Nobody runs the place, but the shelves are always tidy. You take a book, you leave a book, or maybe you just sit by the window and read a few pages with your head resting in your hand. Outside the shop is a wooden bench that feels warm, even on gray days. People don't sit there to wait, they just sit. There's no bus, no appointments, no rush to be anywhere else. Sometimes, fog comes in low from the hills, not heavy, just a soft drift, like someone shaking out a blanket. It wraps around fences and tree trunks, blurs the edges of porches and roads. But nobody pulls out their phone or squints at the sky. They just go quiet for a bit, let it pass. Time doesn't feel gone here, just irrelevant in a little house. At the end of the lane, with ivy crawling halfway across the roof, there's a man named Callum. He lives alone, but the radio in his kitchen is always playing static. Sometimes music, other times never words, and never the same twice. He spends mornings with a chipped mug and the same old blanket across his lap. Sometimes the blanket slips, and he doesn't fix it right away. Just watches the trees outside sway like they're stretching in their sleep. He doesn't talk much, but when people pass his gate, he lifts his hand. That's enough. Nobody asks how long they've been here. People arrive with tight shoulders and tired eyes. They forget their emails. They forget their alarms. Some of them forget why they were in such a hurry in the first place, and they stay, or they leave. No, one keeps track. It's the kind of place where soup always tastes better than you expect, and the mail always shows up even though no one ever sees the postman. Where the rain comes soft, and the wind isn't cold, it just nudges. Where the world feels like it took its shoes off and sat down for a while. Where you sleep, not because you're tired, but because the bed is soft, and the window is cracked open just right, and the blanket smells like the sun. There's a girl who lives near the creek. She's maybe 10, maybe 12, nobody's quite sure. Her name's June, and her boots are always muddy. She doesn't talk much either, but she leaves flowers on doorsteps, not the store kind. Wild ones picked in bunches, tied with grass, sometimes stuck in a glass jar. If she finds one, people don't ask why, they just smile when they see them. It's hard to feel heavy when someone leaves you color in a jar. Sometimes June builds little houses from sticks and pebbles and lines them up along the creek's edge. If the water rises and washes them away, she starts again, doesn't cry, doesn't complain, just hums while she works, sleeves rolled up, knees in the dirt. A woman once asked her why she does it. June blinked and said, "So the frogs have somewhere to go when it rains?" That was it. No follow-up, no explanation. She went back to stacking pebbles, and the woman just nodded and stood with her for a while, watching, listening to the water. The town has no streetlights. When the sun leaves, the sky does the rest. Stars here don't flicker, they shine steady, like they're closer than they used to be. The moon takes its time crossing the sky, and sometimes it hangs low behind the bakery chimney, big as a plate, and pale as a dream. You can walk at night without needing to see. The ground remembers your feet. The air is soft. The wind speaks in small breaths. Some people light candles in their windows, not for any reason, just because it feels right. On a hill near the edge of town, there's an old schoolhouse, the kind with wood floors that bend and groan when you step. Nobody teaches there anymore, but the door stays unlocked, and the windows are cleaned out inside. There's one long chalkboard and a stack of books with cracked spines. A cat sleeps on the front desk, gray thin, always asleep. Some say it's been there for 20 years. Some say it's new every week. No one really checks. No one really minds. People go up there to sit, not to learn, not to plan, just to be where the silence feels old and safe. There's a room at the back of the schoolhouse, with nothing in it but a chair. Someone once carved a name into it, but the wood's worn too smooth now to read. Sunlight comes in through a hole in the roof, and sometimes birds land on the floor like they're listening. Nobody bothers them. Some afternoons, Callum walks all the way up that hill and just sits in the chair for a while. Doesn't bring anything, doesn't take anything, just sits with his hands resting on his knees, like he's listening to something quiet inside him. Then he gets up and walks home, slow, calm, no hurry. In this town, people don't talk about how long they'll stay. They don't say things like forever or someday. They say things like for now and until I feel ready and just a little longer. They water their plants, feed their dogs, leave the windows open if it's warm, leave the porch light on, just in case someone comes by. Time doesn't stop here. It just forgets to push. There's a bench near the laundromat. It's old, wooden, the kind where the paint's peeled off in long strips, and the screws wiggle if you shift your weight too far to one side. Nobody fixes it. Nobody needs to. It still holds you people. Sit there in the middle of folding clothes, sometimes with a towel in their lap, still warm, or with socks that aren't quite dry. They sit with coffee in paper cups, or with nothing at all. Just their thoughts, maybe just the sound of the machines humming inside. Sometimes they sit there together, not speaking, just shoulder to shoulder, letting time pass without asking it to do anything. Behind the laundromat, there's a narrow alley with vines growing up, the brick. At the end of it, there's a blue door with no handle. If you knock twice, sometimes it opens. Nobody ever sees who's on the other side. But when the door swings in, there's music playing. Always something soft. Sometimes a piano. Sometimes just strings and dust and a melody that feels like it remembers your name. You don't go in. You just stand there. Let it reach you. Then the door closes. Quietly. No click. Just gone again. Out by the fields, there's a narrow footpath. where the grass grows long and the breeze always finds you. It's where people go when they don't want answers, just air. The wind there has a way of brushing your arms like it knows you need gentleness every few hundred steps. Someone's built a little stack of stones. No writing, no markers, just smooth rocks, balanced one on top of the other. You don't knock them over. You don't count them. You just pass them like mile markers in a dream. One day there's 3, the next day there's 5. No one says who's adding them. The post office hasn't changed in maybe 50 years. Its bell is bent and doesn't ring. The floor creaks, like it's been telling the same story since the beginning. There's only one worker, a man with sleeves always rolled and hair always messy. He doesn't ask for your name, just hands you an envelope when you walk in, like he already knew what was meant for you. The envelopes aren't addressed. Sometimes they have nothing in them at all. Just a folded piece of paper with no writing. Just space. People keep them, put them in drawers, carry them in pockets. Somehow, it still feels like something was said, and on the far edge of town, down a path no one talks about, there's a small, low house that looks half swallowed by the land. Ivy all over the sides, moss creeping up the steps. Smoke that sometimes curls from the chimney, even when it's warm. No one lives there, but sometimes the door's open. If you go in, you won't find anything strange. No magic, no ghosts. Just a room with thick curtains, soft cushions, and a single chair that faces the window. If you sit, the world outside feels far away. Not gone, just quiet, like someone pressed pause. You might cry, or you might smile, or maybe neither. Maybe you just sit for a while and breathe like it's the first time you remembered how, and then you leave. You don't speak, you don't write it down, you just carry it with you. Nobody keeps track of how long they stay here. Some people think they'll only visit, then they unpack their bags. Some swear they're staying forever, then one morning, they're just gone. No goodbyes, no messages, just a porch light left on, a book left open, a coffee mug washed and drying on the rack, and still, the town hums, soft, unbothered. No clocks, no hurry, just now, just here. There's a man who plays the violin in the orchard. Nobody knows his name. He never speaks, and he doesn't play every day. Only when the trees are rustling just right. Only when the sky is the kind of blue that feels tired. He stands between the rows, bare feet in the grass, violin tucked against his shoulder like it's something he's held 1,000 times. The bow moves slow, the notes come even slower. No sheet music, no pattern. Just sound, drawn out like it's being pulled from the dirt instead of the strings. People don't gather, they pass through, maybe walking their dogs, carrying a peach, holding someone's hand. And when the music drifts through the air, they stop. For just a moment, eyes half closed, breathing in like the music's mixing with the breeze. Then they keep walking, quieter now. Like the song stayed with them, tucked somewhere behind the ribs. There's a dock at the end of the lake, all the way past the last fence and the last row of trees. It creaks under every step, a narrow thing, just wide enough for 2 people if they don't mind sitting close. Sometimes someone's left a blanket there, or a book, or a mug with nothing in it. Nobody owns it, it just exists. The way quiet things do. At night the water doesn't reflect much, just a shimmer, barely there. You can dip your feet in, let them hang. The lake never feels cold, not really, just deep, like it's holding old stories and doesn't mind keeping yours too. Some nights, lanterns float out there, not many, just one or two, drifting slow. No flame, just a soft pulse of light inside, like a heart that isn't in a rush. Nobody sees who sends them. They just appear, drifting out from the shore, then fading quietly. They never reach the middle. They just know when it's time to vanish. There's a trail past the orchard that curls through a patch of woods. Trees there grow close together, tall, thin, the ground soft, covered in pine needles and old leaves that crunch if you step too hard. But if you go quiet, the forest goes quiet with you. You hear birds, maybe, or water somewhere far off, or maybe just your own footsteps slowing down. The kind of walk where you forget your name for a while, not in a scary way, in a way that feels like ... relief. And when the path opens up again, you're not quite where you started. There's a cabin with a slanted roof, and a line of tiny jars in the windowsill, each one filled with something different. Pebbles, dried herbs, rainwater. You never see who lives there. But sometimes there's a note stuck to the door. Not for you, probably, but you can read it anyway. It might say, "Don't be afraid to rest," or "You're not late, you're exactly here," or just breathe. And so the days drift, not forward, not backward, just gently, like leaves in water. Some folks leave eventually. They wake up one morning, pack their bag, and walk down the road without needing to explain. No one stops them, no one waves. But sometimes, someone will go and stand where they used to sit, just for a few minutes. Like they're holding space. For them, like goodbye doesn't need noise. And some stay. They don't mark time. They don't need to. They bake bread. They fix fences. They lie down early and let the quiet carry them. They don't keep track of the days, but they sleep deeper. There's a bell near the edge of the field. No tower, no ropes. Just a bell, hung from a wooden frame that's leaning slightly to the left. Like it's been listening to the wind too long. Nobody rings it. Not for emergencies, not for gatherings. It's not that kind of bell. It's just there. Always has been. People walk past it. Sometimes they stop and touch the edge with their fingers, run a hand along the rust. Not because they want it to sound, just to feel something old, something that's lasted. And somehow, the silence around it feels even deeper. A woman named Vera lives in a cabin by the river. She's old, or maybe just quiet. Her eyes are clear and still, like they've already seen everything worth seeing and decided not to rush the rest. She makes tea from plants she grows in cracked ceramic pots on her porch. She never gives recipes, just hands you a cup, looks at your face and says, "Let it sit in your mouth a while." That's it. She doesn't ask what's wrong, doesn't offer advice. Just tea, a blanket, and a porch with a view of the water, sliding by like it has nowhere to be. Some nights, when the fog slips in and covers the ground like soft breath, you can hear singing from somewhere in the trees. Not words, just a voice, slow, low, carried by the breeze. You can follow it if you want, but you won't find the source. The song always sounds like it's coming from just a little farther ahead, like the forest itself is humming you to sleep. Eventually, most people stop walking. They sit on a log, or lean against a tree, close their eyes, and let the song drift past them like smoke. There's a man with a notebook, who's always writing. Nobody knows what about. He never reads it aloud, never tears a page. Some say he's writing down what people dream. Others think he's trying to remember what time used to feel like. But maybe he's not writing anything at all. Maybe he just likes the feeling of pen on paper, the scratch of it, the way it moves steady, like breath on a still morning at the center of town, where four paths cross. There's a lantern that never goes out. It isn't bright, doesn't flicker, just glows soft and sure-like. It's been waiting for someone to notice. No one remembers who lit it, but everyone seems to pass it at some point. They don't stop, they don't speak, but maybe their shoulders loosen. Maybe they breathe a little deeper. Maybe they remember they're allowed to rest in this place. The sky turns without making a scene. The sun leaves gently. The stars arrive without effort. The night doesn't press down. It wraps. It quiets. It forgives. And somewhere, on some porch, someone is falling asleep with their head resting on someone else's shoulder. No alarms, no deadlines, just a breath, and then another dot. The night stays long enough for them to drift. No rush, no keeping track, just sleep. There's a chair in the library that nobody ever moves. It's by the window, second row from the back. Upholstery faded, but soft. Worn into the shape of someone who used to sit there every day, or maybe still does. Nobody checks out books here. They just open them, let them fall open to whatever page, and then they read slow. Some pages twice, some not at all. And if they fall asleep with the book in their lap, no one wakes them. That's just how the library works. There's a drawer in the bakery, filled with letters no one remembers writing, not sealed, not addressed, just folded once, kept neat. Sometimes when people come in for a loaf or a warm bun, the baker nods toward the drawer, and they reach in, no questions. Read one, fold it back, put it right where it was. Some of the letters are short, some are pages long, some written in pencils so light you have to tilt the paper just right. But they always seem to say exactly what someone needs to hear, even if you don't know why yet. In the town square, there's a bench with a chipped corner. People leave things there, small things, a button, a feather, half a poem written on a napkin. Nobody takes them. They just add more. It's not a shrine, not a tradition, just a quiet habit. Like the town understands, there are things too small to carry, but too heavy to throw away. There's a boy who walks through town at dusk, dragging a stick behind him. Makes a soft scraping sound on the dirt path. He doesn't talk much, but he hums. Little tunes that rise and fall without trying to be remembered. Some folks hum them later without realizing. Picking apples, stirring soup, folding sheets. The tune just slips in, stays for a while, leaves without fuss. And sometimes, when the sky turns the color of cooling ash, a breeze moves through the trees like it's brushing hair from someone's eyes. That's when people start to drift home. Porch lights glow, blankets are pulled a little higher, doors stay unlocked, but gently shut, and the town exhales. Inside one of those homes, someone's sitting on the edge of their bed, hands in their lap, eyes soft, not tired exactly, just ... done for the day. They lie back. The roof creaks the way old wood does when it's relaxed. The air smells like rain that hasn't fallen yet. Somewhere, water drips, steady, slow, and the world fades like it's being tucked in. No dreams tonight, just warmth and breath and the soft weight of sleep. Rain doesn't rush here. It begins with a hush, just the softest tap against leaves, then maybe a pause, then a few more, like the sky is unsure whether it wants to let go just yet. And when it finally falls, it falls soft, like someone wringing out a wet cloth in the sky. People don't run from it. They stay where they are, let it patter on rooftops and slide down windows and soak into their sleeves. Some sit out on their porches and close their eyes, letting the sound fill the space where thoughts used to be. In the attic of the general store, there's a trunk filled with clocks that don't work anymore. Some are missing hands. Some just stopped ticking. Some never ticked at all. No one fixes them. The owner says people leave them there when they don't want to be reminded anymore, so they sit in the dark, in that attic that smells like dust and old paper, surrounded by silence. But sometimes, if you're up there alone, you might hear a click. Just one. A quiet little tick from the back of the trunk, like one of the clocks remembered for a second, then forgot again. There's a mirror in the barber shop that doesn't reflect your face, just light, just color. Sometimes trees, sometimes sky. Sometimes, if you look long enough, you might see someone else's memory. A bench, a coat, a hand holding another, a window open with music playing low. Nobody's afraid of it. They just look for a while, then nod and walk out lighter. A man lives at the end of the road with a front porch full of shoes. He doesn't wear them, he just finds them. Or maybe they find him. One boot here, a pair of sandals there, always dry, even when it rains. He lines them up neatly, facing the woods. All sizes, all kinds. When asked why, he shrugs and says, someone might need the right pair for wherever they're going next. And somehow, no one ever sees him bring new ones out. They just appear. Nights here are long, but not the lonely kind. They stretch, they give you room to breathe, room to wander through old thoughts without bumping into anything sharp. Sometimes a dog barks once in the distance, then quiet again. Sometimes the floor creaks, even when no one's walking. Not spooky, just the house shifting its weight, letting you know it's still there, still holding you. And when the last candle burns low, and the windows are full of rainlight, and the world outside your blanket has gone quiet and blue, that's when the town lets go of you for a little while. Not all the way, just enough for your body to sink, your breath to slow, your eyes to forget they're meant to stay open. No clocks ticking, no morning coming fast. Just stillness that stays long enough for sleep to find you, like it always does here. There's a path behind the post office. It doesn't lead anywhere you can name. No signs, no fences. Just a soft line through the trees where people have walked. Slow enough to leave a trail. It's not the kind of path you follow to get somewhere. It's the kind you wander because your hands are too tired to hold anything, and your thoughts have started to hum instead of talk. Sometimes someone will pass you going the other way. They won't say much, just a nod, maybe a small smile, like they know you've let go of the weight for a while. In one of the back gardens, there's a hammock tied between two trees. Nobody owns it. Some nights it's empty. Some nights someone's curled up in it, with a sweater pulled to their chin, eyes half closed, swaying just enough to make the sky blur through the leaves. It creaks a little, soft and slow, almost like it's singing back to the wind. People in town don't make plans, they just show up when it feels right. You might walk past the bakery and smell cinnamon and clove, and see 3 people sitting on the curb with hot mugs in their hands, not saying anything at all. Or someone might knock on your door not because they need something, but because your porch looked lonely from the path. Nobody keeps score. No one's ever late. There's a girl who draws maps of the town, even though nothing ever changes. She sits by the lake with a piece of charcoal and scraps of paper and draws the bakery, the chair in the library, the bell that never rings. Then she folds each map into a boat and lets it float out over the water. She says she's not trying to remember where things are. She just wants the lake to know sometimes, right before sleep. You might remember the way the rain sounded earlier, or the weight of a blanket you didn't know you needed. Or the way your shoulders felt when you realized you didn't have to carry anything tonight. And that's when your thoughts stop forming full sentences. They just become pictures. A porch light, a slow breath, the sound of soft shoes on soft dirt, and then nothing, just rest here. Even the night seems to understand that quiet is something you can feel, not empty, not cold, just full of space. There's a shed near the edge of the woods. Nobody built it, or if they did, they forgot. It leans a little, covered in moss. Doors always open, just a little. Inside shelves, each one holding a different kind of silence. There's the silence after laughter, the silence of snow falling while you sleep, the silence of a question that doesn't need an answer. People come here when their heads are too full. They sit on the wooden floor, close their eyes, and borrow the kind of quiet they need. Then they leave it behind for the next person. There's a dog that lives behind the diner, old, white-faced, moves slow, like the ground's holding him up. He never barks, doesn't need to. If you sit on the steps with your hands in your lap, he'll come rest his head against your knee. That's it, not asking, not needing, just being there. And sometimes, that's more comfort than words. You can sleep outside here and not feel strange. A porch swing, a patch of grass, a rocking chair by a window left cracked just enough for the breeze. Nobody asks why, they just walk, a little quieter when they pass, let you rest. Because sometimes the bed feels too far away, and the moment you're in is already soft enough. There's a bell in the old tower, but it doesn't ring, not anymore. Some say it only rings when someone remembers something they forgot they needed. But even then, no one hears it out loud. It's more of a feeling, like something loosening inside your chest, like finally letting go of a thought that's been whispering too long. And then there's the lake, still, dark, not cold, just heavy with sleep. On nights like this, when the sky is pale and the trees sway like they're breathing, you can lie near the shore and feel the world slow down with you. Your fingers uncurl, your breath softens, the stars blur a little, like they're blinking slower than you, and you realize you're not waiting for anything, not thinking, not hoping, not even dreaming, just being, wrapped in air, held by stillness, safe inside the kind of quiet that never asks you to wake up. Somewhere past the garden fence, there's a hill, not tall, just enough of a rise that if you lie back, the sky fills everything you see. People go there when they don't want to think in words anymore. They bring blankets sometimes, or nothing at all, just themselves and the sky, and the way the breeze brushes their wrists like a soft apology for the day. You lie down, and the ground holds you. You breathe, and it doesn't echo. Nothing you forgot matters. Nothing ahead hurries toward you. You're just a body in the grass, breathing like the trees, still like the moon. In the little church at the edge of town, there's no preacher, no pews, just cushions and worn rugs and a few scattered candles that burn low and slow. Sometimes people go in to cry. Sometimes they just sit with the quiet. There's a journal near the door. No names, just pages. People write things like, "I missed," or "less today." It rained while I slept, and I didn't wake up. I didn't do anything, and it felt like enough. No one reads it out loud, but the pages stay warm, like they're listening. The fog comes early here, but never all. At once it drifts in like sleep. One step, then another. Soft feet padding over the grass. Street lamps blur, footsteps vanish, and everything starts to hush. You feel it on your skin before you see it. That gentle coolness, like night breathing on your cheek. It wraps around the town like a blanket that remembers your shape. Somewhere nearby, a kettle is still warm, a window still cracked. A chair waits for no one in particular, and the rain, if it's still falling, feels like it's falling slower now, like the sky is tired too. Your hands don't need to hold anything. Your thoughts don't need to finish. Your breath doesn't need to be deep, just soft, just enough. Whatever came before doesn't matter. Whatever's coming next can wait. Right now, in this place, with no clocks, no rush, no noise, you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and it's okay to sleep.